Today we're going to check in on a very rare gecko, Hemidactylus tridrus, and we'll watch them feed. So stick around and enjoy. Talk about an extremely rare gecko. This just isn't in the hobby. I was fortunate enough to pick up a pair of these geckos back in October of 2019 from the NARBC show in Tinley Park near Chicago. A close friend was working with these geckos and he was ready to move on to another project, and I was very fortunate enough to pick up these geckos. They're a beautiful contrast between a creamy white and a real dark patterned background. Early in 2020, I actually did another video on these animals because we had some hatchlings and I was putting them away, and I wanted to show how we had them set up because this is a very tough animal to get any information on from the internet. I'll go ahead and throw a link up to that video here so you can go back and watch it when you're ready. And if you know me, you know that I have to share some educational information on this gecko. From Wikipedia, we find that it can be found around the Sri Lanka, India areas. When I think of India, I think hot and humid. But Sri Lanka is actually off of the ocean and can be more moderate. Actually, it has many different climates. So it's real tough to identify exactly what this animal's requirements are. If you happen to watch that first video, I mentioned that this was a very confusing topic for me, so what I did was I set the enclosure up for the adults with many different options, one being sand, another being a moist hide. I have cork bark in the adult hide. I have a lot of different options for them, both humid and arid, so they can determine themselves which environment they want to establish themselves in. One thing I am doing is keeping them warm. I have a warm spot of probably around 95 to 98 degrees, so they can go to that warm area and really regulate their body temperatures. I also mist every other night to provide them a source of water, even though I have a water dish in their enclosure. And even though I provide a moist hide, they prefer to hide their eggs in little pockets of sand that I have between the rocks. It only took a couple of months before these Hemidactylus tridrus laid their first set of eggs. I've had absolutely no problem hatching these eggs by putting them in an incubator, putting them over sand in a bottle cap, and then putting them in a deli cup with a moist medium such as vermiculite or perlite. Eggs hatch out like clockwork after about 2 months. I relocate the hatchlings onto my micro gecko stand into an enclosure that's about 6 quarts. I use egg carton hides, and I provide a food and a water dish. These hatchlings are large enough to take newborn duvias right from the start. I also feed mealworms and an occasional silkworm. Again, I have to say that I've had no issues whatsoever working with these rare geckos. They've been a pleasure to work with. The adults are very attentive. They come out of their hides when they're ready to feed. It's just a blast to watch these adults. But the babies, I can't tell you how much of a pleasure it's been feeding these babies. It seems like I could feed them every hour and they would be hungry. They always come to the front of the glass if I'm feeding other animals, and while I don't really need to worry about them climbing glass, if I'm feeding enclosures very close to them, they do tend to start climbing the glass like they're ready to feed right now. After a month or so, these Hemidactylus tridrus babies grow considerably and they're ready to feed on medium mealworms and 3 or 4 week old dubia. One interesting feeding behavior that I found with these animals is when I feed mealworms, the very first tridrus will come out and eat a mealworm. After that, it seems like any tridrus that gets a mealworm, another one is right by its side, ready to steal it out of its mouth. These animals are just a blast to watch feed. They're just so comical. Let's sit back and enjoy some Hemidactylus tridrus feeding. Hey Gecko fans, I want to thank you once again for watching a Supreme Gecko video. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe and hit the notification all. Thanks again for watching.